Moses West. Like I say, I'm a spoken word artist. I don't know anything about fighting. I don't know how to fight, but I'm a battle rapper. So I talk like I know how to fight. But if anybody like actually know how to fight, I'll probably take an L real quick, you know.
So yeah, you're here actually because after the last one, I talked to some friends and I'm like, okay, well, what do you think of the podcast? And they said, well, yeah, I like you and all, but I have no idea what you're talking about. You guys are getting all of this like dense stuff, and people were sort of just like not able to follow, right? So I figured, okay, if we get somebody who doesn't know anything about the subject to come in here with us and help keep us sort of in that, maybe we can make it more applicable
to the Tai dummies right here.
Exactly, Tai Chi for dummies.
You want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
The chance of your being
Ladies and gentlemen,
an atomic bomb
welcome
is
to
slight.
Built Different, the People of Taijiquan, where we follow the energy to find out what makes some people put in the work that others don't even know exists. Please take a moment right now to show your appreciation for our guests' time and courage by hitting like and subscribe, follow, notify, remind me, I pledge eternal loyalty, or whatever your preferred platform offers. Thank you.
Nigga, I gotta talk to you like a man.
That's real.
Because you trying to tear down what we trying to uplift.
Right.
You niggas doing Satan's work with your God's given gift.
See that?
See, I told you for this battle because your peers respect you. And you're a dope rapper, Mr. Shears, respect due. But y'all tearing down what we trying to build. Stupid music like yours what got Jordan Davis killed. You niggas fall for anything because you don't stand for nothing. You rap niggas won't stand up and be a man for nothing. You a father, a leader, so grab you a handful of these motherfucking rappers and tell them lead by example.
Kick slip, coming quick with a trick, kick flip, make you flip and trip and think you slipped. Kick slip, low kick slip, mysterious and deadly, hiding in the shadows. Simultaneously everywhere, that guy that everybody knows. Kick slip, low kick slip, breaking boards across his belly, ain't his feet ain't even smelly. Low kick slip, you can sit at home and run your mouth, or come mess around and find out. Low kick slip, kick slip, kick slip, kick slip, low kick slip. Kick slip. Low kick slip, coming quick with that trick, kick flick, make you flip and trip and think you slipped. Low kick slip, mysterious and deadly, hiding in the shadows.
And we're on. All right, let me get in the middle. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Built Different, the People of Taijiquan. With me today, I have my guest, Mike Graves. Mike, I met, back around 2016, I think. I first was made aware of your presence on Rum Soaked Fist. I was in Austin. My second daughter was about to be born. I'm getting back into Tai Chi. I'm like, I need to go find somebody to fight. And so I got a Rum Soaked Fist. They're like, hey, Mike Graves is in Austin. You should look him up. He's in Texas. And so I wound up making your acquaintance on Facebook. And then we wound up, I guess Sean had arranged a meetup down in Austin and brought all y'all down there. And I saw you and her name escapes me right now. Maria. Yeah, Maria. How could I miss that? But you and Maria down there for the first time, and she's out there throwing folks around. I'm like, oh no, this guy's got it all. All right, this woman's out here pushing hands with him, and she can hold. She could keep up. So it was really good. Welcome, Mike, and I guess go ahead and say a few words about yourself if you'd like. Uh-huh.
Of course, as you mentioned, Mike Graves. I almost a 30-year practitioner of Tai Chi, and among other things, but that's kind of like what we're here for. And an enthusiast, more of a hobbyist than I guess, professional person at it. And just always like to talk shop and and engage with other people about the subject matter. Whether it's actively doing it or just talking about it. So there you go. Can you
Okay.
hear me okay?
Yep. Did you get that okay, Moses?
Yep.
Okay, and that brings me to my next guest, co-host. Um, my two passions in life actually are kind of represented here now, like yeah, martial arts and poetry, writing, language, spoken word, and all that, and the bringing together of people to participate in these activities that you can't really do. I mean, like computers can't do it yet, right? They can kind of write poetry a little bit, but they can't do the whole thing. I use them to like I'll make music with them, but they can't write the music. You know what I mean? It's not that I think so, but anyhow, so Moses, well respected spoken word artist. I think I first became aware of your existence around 2009 or so. I was like about to just go on the road and try making a living being a traveling poet. And I hit up Ezra Stead up in Minneapolis. I'm like, hey man, you know anybody down in Florida? And he clued me into Curtis, ex Meyer out there in Orlando. Right. And I'm like, hey Curtis, anybody around Florida? And he's like, yeah, talk to he's like, there was you, there was like Wendy Jones, there was Asia Sampson. I can't remember who else, man, like Janet Dawson or something, or Masharia is her name now. So I mean, I was kind of like started following all you guys and get into what you in tune with what you were doing and just really liking it, Southern Fried Poetry Slam and whatnot. And he shows up there in Jacksonville to sex on stage and good ass poetry, wonderful stuff. And so that's kind of the point here with both of y'all. I tell people I do Tai Chi and poetry, right? And they get this image in their head, right? like what do you think, So and we all know that's not really what it is, right? So yeah, you want to take a second and talk about yourself there, Moses? Say hi.
Moses West. Like I say, I'm a spoken word artist. I don't know anything about fighting. I don't know how to fight, but I'm a battle rapper. So I talk like I know how to fight.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So I do a lot of braggadocio talk, but if anybody like actually know how to fight, I'll probably take an L real quick, Yeah, I don't got a lot of pride. I'll tap out quick and I'll,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But I'll talk shit after the fight.
Well, there you go, man. And like what? Sometimes they say like the highest form of martial arts is just to eliminate the enemy's desire to fight.
Right.
Whether that's through intimidation or just making a friend or just hey, think for a second. Like don't do this. So like being a coward is actually a good thing. I think. I'm not calling you a coward, but you know what I mean. Like I call
I take the fight. I'm just gonna lose.
yeah. in my opinion though. And so yeah, you're here actually because after the last one, I talked to some friends and I'm like, okay, well, what do you think of the podcast? And they said, well, yeah, I like you and all, but I have no idea what you're talking about. You guys are getting all this like dense stuff, and people were sort of just like not able to follow, right? So I figured, okay, if we get somebody who doesn't know anything about the subject to come in here with us and help keep us sort of in that,
Right.
maybe we can make it more applicable
to the the
Yeah.
Tai dummies right here.
Exactly, Tai Chi for Dummy. Like you were talking, was that you were talking about or somebody else? Yeah, actually, it was Duncan Jay was saying that he used to be on some podcast. It was Cigars for Dummies, and he was the dummy.
Yeah.
And so he would just be the guy that would ask the stupid questions that the host would feel stupid asking. So
I'm
that's
gonna be the professional dummy today.
all right. So no question is too stupid. That's how I feel about it. And gosh, so I wanted to start off with kind of our commonality. One of the things that I like as well, and that is the relationship between martial arts and music for you, Mike. And I guess Moses. I mean, feel free to jump in and ask anything you want anytime here. You're also we're trying to grill him together here about that. So like when you mentioned that in that interview with Matt Stamp, you talked about music sort of being like fighting in martial arts for you in some ways, and like I think you had said that kung fu culture was like hip hop culture in a way for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good that you have Moses mention what he just said about battle rap, right? So I come from the era, going in '70s, so I come up in the hip hop era, from the 70s and up. And, so that means I also got involved into the early stages of the breakdance scene and things like that. But of course, within rap itself, the lyrics of rap and things like that were, you're bragging about yourself, you're telling how skillful you are. And then if you look at the era of the movies all that around that time, particularly the Shaw Brothers type movies, it's about obtaining skill, showing your skill, and out, skilling the other person, whether it's the enemy, so forth and so on. But with that being said, with that being, around the same time as the breakdance era, you have the same types of articulation and movements, right? They're very acrobatic, and you're showing someone your skill through movement, right? So, I grew up on those movies, and I had a deep connection with the movies of wanting only to learn a Chinese martial art. And I know I mentioned not too long ago in another kind of forum as to what led me to that was because I always thought that that's what I was going to be when I learned a Chinese martial art. I was going to be like the movies. I was going to be like what I saw. And the first time I ever went to the movies was, and the first movie I ever saw at a cinema at 6 years old was a Shaw Brothers movie. So, that was like kind of ingrained in my mind along with the culture of hip hop because, you saw the break dance, and even now, the level that you see the flips, you see the acrobatics and things like that. So they all kind of relate and correlate. But then you're talking about battling, you're talking about showing your skill and out skilling the other person. That's what it was like. Hey, here's what I do. Here's my style. What's your style? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
most of you can relate, right?
Definitely. It's a poet named Dennis Amadeus. I don't know if you know him, but I'll make sure I introduce you guys. You might want to get him on here. But he had a poem. It was a slam poem, and it was about how he compares poetry slam to kung fu tournaments.
Yeah, that's great.
Some of the dopest stuff you ever heard.
Yeah.
He's like, this, and he likes to name people in the audience when he does it. So
Okay.
like, okay, Mo's coming with the crane style with his aggressive blah blah blah, and this guy is finesse, and so it's a big it's a big correlation, and also being like I do battle rap, but we are battle rap today ain't necessarily what it was back in the day when you show up with your rhymes and you know what I'm saying, it's out rap the other guy. It's really skill to it. You really have to study your opponent. And you prepare for the battle these days. Like it's all pre-written.
Yeah.
The guy that you're battling a month ahead of time. And they
well, I mean, I guess that you can kind of like, I suppose, increase the quality of the game in a sense there, but that kind of changes the game a little bit too, doesn't it? It's like you're not just like right there matching your wits in the moment.
Right. But it's better to watch. You know what I'm saying? If two guys just showed up and fought each other out of the blue, then you might not get a good fight. You want to know, So nowadays it's like when I'm battling, I'm directing all my rhymes to you.
Yeah.
Generic rhymes. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, look at these guys with their gray beards and they, you know what I'm saying? All of that stuff in the battle, or you can really research your opponent and see who he is, and really, you know what I'm saying? And all my battles, I do this thing where I say it's a certain point in the battle where I say, okay, it's the part of the round where I talk to you like a man, and I just break down a person's character and what they could be doing better in order to succeed. And they never seen that like that in battle rap because it's always this. You know what I'm saying? But I give them like constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And it's like it's people's favorite part of the battle. They be like, okay, it's like just that part of the round, and everybody says it with me because like it's like a phrase. Like just the part of the round where I talk to you like a man. Everybody say it with me. And then, I get, I put my bow tie on and I just break them down.
Well, that's the problem. Yeah, right? That's great, right? Like, but that like speaks to a lot of things, like in the tournaments too. Like, when you, like, I don't know, like in your participation, Mike, because you're kind of more of a tournament fighter, right? And so you wouldn't necessarily know who you were going to be coming up against. Would that be accurate? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's just like you mentioned. Like it's the evolution of, or you would say evolution of fighting, right? So if you look at the earlier days of competitions, you didn't know too much about your opponent, right? Like if you look even at the early UFCs,
Yeah.
they just went and they start. It was style upon style.
Mhm.
And look at the early days of hip hop is very similar. It's my style against your style. I wasn't directing any of my lyrics. I'm talking in general
Yeah.
about maybe something may hit on you, but I'm not really talking about. But through evolution of it, just like you look at UFC now, they're going to go to fight. You study your opponent and you get your skills adapted to that opponent because
Mhm.
the way you go into the ring may be totally different for this person versus the other person because you know that. Say, all right, I watch battle rap too. I'm a big battle rap fan too as well. I'm a geek for it, right? So I was just like little. Like yesterday, I was watching like Tay Rock and Big K, right? So I was just like, so and it's the same thing. The way that you approach someone in that battle may be totally different because you study that opponent. You study what their weaknesses are. You study how they get the crowd going, and sometimes you want to take that away from them because you know
Yeah.
they're gonna see something, right? You want to pull that away from them so they don't get that crowd response that they're hitting on, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing. And when you're going to fighting now, you're trying to pull away this skill that they're relying on. They're relying to show that skill. And I just watched the UFC fight over the weekend as well. And there's a guy named Sean O'Malley. And when in his fight, the guy pretty much took away his best known thing, which is the knockout, right? He's known, knockout. So he wasn't able to articulate that. So it made it look like he wasn't in the fight. And that's what you can do in battle rap. And that's what you can do when you're actually sparring or going against someone. You're taking that skill away from them. They can't rely on it. And now they're trying to dig in their bag. Shoot, what else do I have that I can compete with this? So I can relate totally what Moses said. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's and actually a couple things that brings up for me. Like I don't know if you guys know who Josh Johnson is, a comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah, young guy. He's got he did this recent, like it's like 30 minutes you can find on YouTube. It's explaining the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef for white people. And when he started talking about this idea that we're talking about the evolution of the form, so to speak, right? Because he one of the jokes he said, I'm just stealing Josh Johnson's joke, but I'm giving him credit for it, right? So it's right there. But he said, used to be battle rap was, hey, I did your girl, right? And now it's, hey, you're not very in touch with your feelings, which makes you emotionally distant, unavailable for your partner and your children. And I did your girl. It's just kind of like how he said, but like you're saying, just like we're kind of up in the game a little bit in that respect, uh, you know. But one thing that you mentioned there too, and I think it applies for both areas and online too, right? That and even in politics, really, that like accusations are confessions, or that people are going to attack you when they're weak first, right? Like they know that, okay, I always know that I'm gonna be looking to the right when I throw a hook, so I gotta learn how to protect my left, okay, or whatever, right? Um, and so you learn that, but you're like, hey, this guy, no, he might not do that. So when he comes in and he goes to throw a right, I know I'm going to have this right hook of my own there to answer him on the left because he might be leaving that open because it's a common thing, right? You know what I mean? Like you're aware of your own insecurities and your own faults, and so you use that to plan your attack on others. Is the idea? And you guys are nodding. So you want to talk to that at all, or did I say too much?
Yeah, go ahead, Moses. Go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing. But like one time I battled a guy who had a reputation for stealing other people's rhymes.
No.
So when he did the coin toss, I'm just like, hey, no, I want to go first.
Yeah.
Because I want to break this down. Like so what I was doing is in the middle of his rhymes, like I would just steal rhymes from other people on purpose, like people in the room, other battlers and so forth. And people would be like, yeah, that's my line. You know what I'm saying? I was like, well, y'all let him do it, And once he started rhyming, and I made people aware that that's what he does.
Yeah.
People were listening to hear something they already heard before. And when they hear it, they was like, oh, no, you know what I'm saying? You stole that one.
Yeah.
I had one guy, he says a lot of, he don't do it on purpose, but like the pause game is popular these days, right? And he says a lot of, like, when he raps, he says a lot of like subliminally gay stuff.
Okay.
But it don't really be gay. You know what I'm saying? It's just
yeah.
He's not aware that he does this.
Oh my God.
So okay. When I break it down, I'd be like, yo, I like in the middle of this rhyme, like when it's his turn, he's gonna say something extremely gay. I was like, in one rhyme, he said this. And one battle he said that, one battle he said this, and everybody was like, that is kind of gay. So then he said something like, I'll fuck this guy up bareback or something like that. And we was like, whoa, you know,
Oh shit! So you kind of made it like, so if he goes, yeah, okay, you kind of get it to where if he gets anywhere near it, it's like, whoa, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And messed up his whole rhyme because he kept doing it, but it was all pre-written stuff, so he had to, like, he couldn't throw in he didn't have the skill to throw an audible or be like, you know what, let me not say that because it's gonna come off. But that comes from studying the opponent, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And going back and having those old school skills on to come back, on, right? I mean, if you're used to being able to get all that advanced info, then all of a sudden you're without it, you're like, oh, you know? Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. And that, not to spend too much time on this in the music part. This is fascinating. Like another thing in the Kendrick and Drake beef, like I was watching it unfold, and like the first one came out, I'm like, oh my god, this is great, you know. Well, not the first one. I guess it was Euphoria was when I first was like paying attention, because the other stuff was kind of like, oh, J. Cole kind of bowed out. All right, good job, right? You know, I wouldn't want to be in that. But I started watching it and paying attention to lyrics and paying attention to Drake's responses, and then paying attention to Kendrick's responses to his responses. I'm like, man, he knew ahead of time what this dude was going to say. You know, like it looked to me on the outside like he had this long game that he had planned out, and then Drake was just sort of like playing along with Kendrick's plan all the way down until he's like, shit, not like us, right? But and like he had a couple more ready in the pipe to go, from what I understand. That just I think everybody's happy that didn't come out.
But those are all correlating. Those are all correlating skills, right? So, like for me, like in the way that I like to participate with people, I will tend to play the way they want to play. So that way, I can do your skill better than you do your skill. Now I'm taking your skill away from you. You know what I mean? So what you're going to use, and if you look at it, people kind of relate even the battle rap back to what Eminem did in 8 Mile, right? He took the power away by saying what his opponent is going to say to him, right? So you can do that in all walks of life, really, if you want to. You take that power away from them because that's their bad, right? That's what they're relating to, right? So so Moses mentioned, right? He took his guy's power away because now he's reluctant to say his own words because now they're suspect. So he's like, well, hey, and maybe not even take it away from him, but take away the way he would emphasize certain things, because it's a lot of times it's about inflection in your performance. What you put emphasis on at a certain time, your cadence of something. Now it's changed the tone for you, because now you don't want to say this as hard as you're going to say it before, because now it's going to feel different, right? So it's like somebody like, oh, my best thing is my jab. But they throw a jab and you're able to either absorb that jab or pop it back with your own, then they're reluctant to do that jab, which is their best thing. So now they're like, okay, now, like, as mentioned, they may not have an audible to say, you know what? Instead of throwing my jab, I'm gonna fake my jab, and then I'm gonna hit you with a body shot uppercut, then come back with a jab. You know what I mean? It's like that people don't necessarily have that, that ability.
Skill set,
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Did you crap? What was I gonna say? ADD just got me there. But yeah, Mike, the conflict, right? People say combat, right? Combat sports, and whatnot. I'm kind of like, working with veterans. I'm like, I kind of want to step away from combat as a word, and we'll call it conflict, right? That's just my own personal thing. But like kind of we're talking here, like we've got these strategies and tactics that we would apply in a fight, and kind of looking at how those strategies and tactics would apply like in a battle rap in certain ways, right? Wait, how do you ever think about like that, like your Tai Chi tactics and like other conflict management in life? I mean, you mentioned that briefly, but you want to talk about that a little bit, or?
Okay, so the way I carry myself is such, right? I mean, is Tai Chi, I guess, if you would. The way I engage with people, I think that's why most people see me as being very personable, right? But I gauge myself off of, so, I do this drill. I teach at the university, right? So I do a drill, usually the first 2 weeks of the drill, right? Where I'll get folks to like, stand in the Tai Chi posture, which is relax your lower back, hollow your chest, bend your knees naturally like that. And I'll get, usually, if there's one there, I'll get the biggest guy in the class. And I'll tell him, all right, come behind me. You're going to push me from behind, right? I want you to give me the best shove you got, right? And I'll put my head in sort of like in 3 different levels, right? So I'll put my head down like this, and I have them push me. And, I'm not putting it on. I just let them push me. And then they watch me go downwards because my head is looking down. It's going down in the direction. So when he pushes me, my body goes where my head is, right? Then my second one, I'll look up. So my head's in the clouds now. So they push me, and then when they push me, my back kind of arcs as the push goes because my head is going back. And then I get into what I consider to be the Tai Chi posture, where I kind of relax, head straight on, and I bounce like a rock skipping on water. And then I say they're like, oh wow, that's okay. Now you see me do it. Now you're gonna do it. So understand that it's not about anything special. It's just about body mechanics. But then also I'll get into the philosophical side of things. I said, the way you carry yourself sometimes dictate how you engage with people. When your head is down, it's almost like you're treating yourself as being inferior. You don't want to give eye contact. So the person is talking down to you, if you will, right? Because you got your eyes down and you're almost afraid to approach or engage. Your eyes are up. That means you're almost aloof. It's almost like you don't really care about what they're saying. You're not really paying attention. You're not aware. But yet, if you're engaging in your eyes, you can see everything out on your peripheral. You can see things up and down equally. That means you're engaged into what's happening, right? So when you're approaching people, sometimes you can look and see how maybe the way you approach someone may be intimidating to them, and you'll see they're not want to look you in the eyes because of your approach. So you may have to adapt your approach to get that engagement, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the same thing if they're aloof. So I use that when I engage with people, and also, where you give physical contact to people, a handshake and things like that. Because sometimes, you don't want to dominate a person, but also you want to show a person that you're in balance. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
all those things are that. The way I stand, typically, if I don't know someone, I know you probably can see me here and back up a little bit. So you may see me standing like this, right? And it's sort of like I engage in conversation. But also for me, that's like I can also strike out, block here, and I can block down below, but I'm still engaging and not threatened. You know what I mean? I'm not closed off, anything like that. I'm engaged. So all those things a part of me, part of what I get from Tai Chi. So I use it across the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I try to, stay within the yin and yang of things, right? Because yin and yang is this, it morphs and there's all that in between before it gets to one shape to the other, right? So you're never one completely all the time. You're always in this kind of like evolving shift of things, and it depends on who you're engaging with. Because you may have somebody that's very aggressive and you may be the yin person, even though I may think I'm like, in control, but sometimes you're the other tandem of that, but you're still trying to bring it back into balance somehow about how you engage. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, it's kind of we'll look at there. Yeah. So yeah, Moses, did you even know that? Go ahead.
That was very well spoken. A dummy like you followed it.
Yeah. Well, did you even know that Tai Chi was a martial art, Moses?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you know about it before this cover? Before I asked you about it, actually, that's a pretty good thing to ask too.
So, I don't know what Tai Chi is for the most part. I thought it was like some Indian tea or something.
No, it's chai tea. Close.
Yeah. but explain to me, what exactly is Tai Chi? I heard like Taekwondo but what exactly is Tai Chi?
Mike, you want to handle that? You're the
So all right, and that's an extremely good question, because it's almost asking someone what is what is battle rap, right? Now, if I ask you and if I ask someone else, their definition and their expression of it may be slightly different. But it's based on a set of principles, right? And those principles are kind of geared around a yin yang symbol, right? The yin yang symbol is kind of showing a correlation between, I call it, and I simplify it as complementary opposites, right? Left, right, up, down, forward, back. But there's also variations of within that to get to either side. So if I go from my left to the right, it still has to go across my center to get to the other side, right? So how fast did it get to the other side? And then what's the intent of getting to the other side, and how much energy you put into getting to the other side? It's all there, right? So you're working within these principles to try to always keep them in balance, but knowing when to have a give and take, right? Knowing and have an understanding where, like I mentioned in the conversation, where I can't always be the dominant one. So sometimes I have to be the one that's receiving the energy, if you will, right? And so you're paying attention in so many parameters, but yet constantly trying to be connected, right? You're not trying to be disjointed from anything, right? And I always, I talk in analogies all the time, right? So imagine you're driving down the highway and you're behind the car, they're going 60 and you're going 60, and then all of a sudden they hit their brakes. So you have a quick decision to make, right? So you can either yield by hitting your brakes, you can keep driving and smash right in the back of them, right? But yet, even though you're not directly connected initially, but you are connected to that person's movement. You're connected to their energy. You're connected to how they're moving in front of you, right? Because at one time you may have to go around them. And at that time you're going around, you may have to yield to go soft and then take off and go fast. So that means you went really quickly from yin and yang energy. Well, you know what I mean? So, and you've taken away their power because they may be brake checking you, right? So it's giving a brake check that's caused that. And so, again, but you're connected through that action without you even knowing that you're connected. But then you're also connected by all the other cars that are around you. So, you know, and could be a pothole in the road that's going to alter that. When you go to the right, there's a pothole that's going to make you spin out of control. All these things you have to be conscious of, or you should be conscious of in your movement and your engagement with things. So you're not disconnected from anything because you got to take in the atmosphere. It could be raining, it could be a heavy wind, it could be a really sunny day. All those things are variables into how you operate. So nothing's really ideal. That's the reason there is the yin and yang symbol where there's big that's tapering down to smaller, because you can find yourself anywhere on that scale of things, right? When you're engaging. So Tai Chi to me is that, right? So I don't like to just say, you know, oh, it's set of system, because it is that, but there are different families, there's different styles, and everyone expresses it differently because we all have different attributes. And it goes, man, this goes right back into battle rap, right? Everyone has a different way of expressing the way they want to say their lyrics and how they want to put together their patterns, how they want to put their bars together. They're going to be bar heavy, or they're going to be scheme heavy, they're going to be, you know what I mean? So
East Coast, West Coast, Dirty South, you know, lineages essentially, right?
It's still battle rap, but the principles are there, but how you express it is going to be kind of how you've been schooled, what experiences you have, what's your wheelhouse of lyrics and dialogue and vocabulary. It's all of that, if you will. I hope, Jason, you want to add on to that or anything? Or?
Yeah, you know, it's I would go. I mean, that's great. I mean, I would say that I go a little different with it. Like we're talking about like well, you kind of mentioned something earlier, like in the conflict part where you talk about somebody putting pressure on you, right? And so like you know, the basic idea as a martial art with Tai Chi is if they're putting pressure on us, we don't put pressure in return. We put an equal amount of softness, so we receive it exactly until they're just out of pressure. And at that point, you know, if you think about it like in a simple model, like they're pushing into your space and you let them push as far as they're going to go, and like at that point you're fully loaded and ready and you have a full gun, so to speak, that you can unload on them, right? But they're at the extent of their, you know, they're all the way out, they're stretched out of pocket, and you're like standing right there with them, you know, with a gut shot, basically is the idea, you know? So like at the extreme of hardness, there's softness that you don't want. You know, you try to be hard and you're soft because you just run out of hard, right? But if you learn how to be soft to find the hardness there, then you never really run out of soft is the idea, right? So
kind of, yes. And that's what, so this is perfect. This is exactly what we're talking about, right? So the variant of that, right? So here's another crazy analogy, right? It's a tree analogy. A teacher always taught this, right? You're, say in the forest or whatever, it's a large tree. You're right there beside it, and you hear it crack, right? And you don't know where it's going to go, so you put your hand on it, right? You put your hand on the crack of the tree, right? And you're feeling the tree here, so this is the tree. And if it's light and it's going away from you, you can push it away, right? But if you hear it crack and it's heavy, then you need to yield to get away from it because it's going to crush you, right? Hear it, it cracks and it hasn't moved. So then you're going to have to play with it a little bit to see which way it's going to give. So then you're trying to figure out, because now you're in balance with it in a way, but you don't know where it's going to go, but you don't want to leave yourself victim. So if you go around it, then it ends up falling that way. If you stay back here, it may fall that way. So you're trying to really feel it out. So Tai Chi has that thing where you can be soft and you can be hard, depending on what you feel, what that Jason mentioned, like what the energy is that you feel. And again, it's like, again, that's what I tell you, it's parallels to this, what we're talking about. Like you're in a match with someone, you're head to head with someone, and they're not really giving you anything just yet. So you're trying to feel like, let me feel like I can lure them out by throwing this bar out there and see if they're going to bite in their rebuttal. Because if they bite on this, I got them, right? And that's the same thing. You may say something, and then they pull you out, and you're like, dang it. So now I gotta bring myself back in balance because they got, you know what I mean? So, you know, so then it's that give and take. So Tai Chi, I always see beyond the martial art is in everything that we do. It's evolved around us and everything that we engage in. We don't necessarily call it that or even sometimes even see the semblance in it. But for me, I do. I see it in all things. And then, you know, that's like what Jason mentioned, that energy, that back and forth. It's like a conversation all the time. And you can have it somebody non-verbally, through eye contact, through body language. You know what I'm saying? And you're paying attention to that information that's giving you. Like, oh man, he's bulking up. He's showing
Yeah.
his yang energy. Or you see somebody cave in, you see them that deep breath and that feel like that whole thing just got depressed, right? You'll see that's their yin energy. You see them getting weaker. So does that make sense? Yeah.
Yo, make perfect sense. I'm following. I'm right here.
Yeah. And like, and one thing, I always like when I'm trying to tell people about this concept of it, like, so like there's this example, like we'd say first is like pung, like ward off, right? And that's just kind of like, it's just like a boundary, so to speak. It's not advancing into your territory, and it's not going back and giving you my territory. It's just like, okay, this is my boundary, right? And you can use it in different ways. But then if you look at like, there's one called rollback, and like my teacher explained it as like, opening the door to let the thief in, so to speak. So like, if, like you see the cartoons, they come and they want to try and break a door down with a battering ram. At the last second, they open the door and just kind of go and they fall on their face. That's the idea, right? But that, like, I kind of relate it to conflict, and like if you're in an argument with somebody and they got something they want to say to you, right? And they don't even know what it all is, and you're like, wait, hold on, no, you're wrong, and you want to try and correct them. So you try to stop them, but they're like, no, I'm not finished. So they kind of keep going, and they say something else you want to respond to, and like, no, and you just kind of have this. You're both just trying to go at say things at the same time, like, and that's essentially to me like force on force, right? And so what I do now, what I try to do is take myself out of it, and like my desire to get my point across, and just say, okay, well, what do you got to say? And let them say everything they got to say. Is like, is that all? Yeah, are you sure? Is there anything else? Make sure they actually have nothing else in the barrel, so to speak, and then say, okay, well, allow me to respond. And at that point, I've got all of their information, everything they want to say about it, and I can be more skillful in how to address the need. And like I was telling this too, like I started Tai Chi and then got into security at like nightclubs and concerts and stuff. And like, this one club I worked at, I was doing security for Cedric the Entertainer at a Kappa Alpha. And we would have like the district attorney would be in town, or we'd have like, famous people would be in this bar. And so like if they get too drunk and start acting the fool, I mean, you can't just like, Muay Thai, throw a couple elbows and, dump them on the floor, right? You're going to get sued, if not put in jail, because they just got the connections, even if you're in the right to make that kind of shit happen, So the point being, when it comes to Tai Chi, like the standard that the inventors try to hold you to is the exact right amount of aggression, the exact right technique at exactly the right time. And like anything short of that is failure, abject failure, and it's not going to work. And so like you get an aggressive person, instead of trying to hurt them and pummel them into submission, being able to kind of redirect their anger, let it spin itself out, and then sort of more peacefully let the energy out of it, basically, and then more peacefully negotiate the situation. So that's just kind of like, but the whole, like you were saying, like I see it everywhere, like where is the energy in this situation? Where's the chi to irritate some people, right? But that's kind of what it is. When we talk about chi as a model, like, you talk about a crowd, and I know you've done some crowd work, right? Okay, so these guys are over here having a private conversation, right? And these guys over here are really into it. So I'm in the middle of my set. I'm going to walk over here and be like, get in their face and step towards them, and like, oh, shoot. So now they're engaged, but like things like that. And so what that does, now that side of the room's engaged too, and that brings the energy of the whole room up, right? But that whole, but you look at that from, individual conversations, you look at it in creative works, like they have like the idea of, chi in poetry and chi in calligraphy and paintings, and like the same sort of thing, like, understanding how we as human beings resonate with what's going on around us and being able to affect that in some way. So you guys are my guests. You're supposed to be doing the talking here. So
no, I asked the question. I'm getting a very in-depth answer.
Yeah. Well, that's why we got you here, man. So we don't get too in depth, because we'll go off on the deep end and start talking about, well, what do you think about the Wei Chi when you do these? No.
No. Very good. So based on what we've been saying, Moses, how do you kind of pull it into your wheelhouse, right? What do you? I know we've given you some ideas of what it may relate, but how do you see it just from the things you maybe experience, or the things that you even go through to build up your sets, that you feel that this kind of correlates or relates to you?
I don't know if I 100% understand the question.
Well, could you?
All the stuff we just talked about, right? So we're talking about how it's varying degrees of energy we put into something, and then we watch folks' body language. We may watch the way that they respond to us, where it's really aggressive. Then you may see them change up and get softer. Like, do you recognize those kind of things as
Oh
your
yeah,
as
yeah,
your
most definitely, most definitely. I don't never go into a whenever I'm doing a set or I'm being hired to be somewhere. I never come in there with the mindset that I'm going to do this particular set of poems. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I walk in there and I'm gonna feel the energy out. I'm gonna say, oh, okay, they not really like that, or oh, this is a crowd full of white people. This is a crowd full of women. This is a rowdy crowd.
Yeah.
And depending on who I see in the audience, or especially if I'm going like last or something like that, I get to watch them engage or watch the performers before me engage with them. I say, okay, they like that kind of stuff. They don't like that kind of stuff. All right, let me scratch this off the list. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna replace that with this poem that is more that I feel like they can relate to a little better. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was out there in LA. It was like last week. Yeah, last week I was in LA. And I did a show. It was like I was opening for El DeBarge, and it was an older crowd out there. And I hit them with some stuff. And I tried to do that same set the next night in San Diego, and I seen that it wasn't getting that same reaction. From the first poem, it wasn't getting the same reaction. So I just switched up the entire set, and I watched that, you know what I'm saying? I watched that audience grow with it. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And they're like, oh, okay, this this is where he is. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
because it's so many sides, it's so many a human being is so round that um you can give them these pieces of you that they understand. You know what I'm saying? So just so they can understand your whole self, you know? So I wasn't mad that I started off with something that kind of threw them off, but I think the whole set made it more well-rounded, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I also I don't think that when I'm doing poetry, I don't think that the audience is supposed to like everything that you say. So so it worked out for me well. But yeah, it's but I get what you guys saying. Like sometimes you just gotta, you gotta go with the flow. Like the pushback that they were giving me,
Yeah.
I could have just said, hey, I'm gonna keep going with this set. And
Right.
this is these mean mugs and stares that I'm getting from this poem. I'm gonna make them mug me harder. Or
Yeah.
or I can get soft and say,
Yeah.
okay,
What's wrong with you guys?
yeah, right. Let me just switch up the motion and get on y'all team.
Yeah, but that's a great, I think that's an example of what we call a wu wei, right? Is the Chinese term for it. The technical concept is a wu wei, like a no preference or like a sort of emptiness or like, doing nothing but leaving nothing undone, and kind of like I was saying, you want to have the exact right technique at the exact right time. Like that, that's how you do that. Like, you're saying if you're coming there, I've got to get this poem. I've got to say this poem tonight. And like you start off with something similar and like not feeling it. Okay, well, what are you going to do there? What's the point of this? Is it for you to express your poem? Okay, sure, then go do it, right? But you can get the shit out of you. But if you're an entertainer, you're trying to build a brand, you're trying to build a show, that kind of stuff. You got to say, okay, no, I'm gonna switch this shit up and I'm gonna do something that's gonna work, get these people on my side and move it forward.
Right.
And so you've got to have that willingness to not insist on your way, and you got to have that willingness, that openness to to be able to see, listening, what we call in Tai Chi, Ting listening energy, what's going on, what is appropriate, and then have an appropriate, tool in your toolbox to capitalize on the situation. It all fits in. It's all together. It's life.
Yeah, I was following the body languages. I was okay.
Yeah. And that's another the body language too. That's thing you were talking about there too, because perspectives. Like imagine, Mike, you're like a muscular dude that a lot of people, might automatically get a little intimidated by. You know what I mean? Right? Right? Well, not necessarily like, like right off the, like once they get to talk to you, yeah, okay, fine, right? He's got this energy that's, people just, he's like this big smile and like, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he's cool. But I can see like, people could easily get intimidated or scared or whatever for whatever reason, and that sort of what you're talking about, I think, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I wanted to talk about like making yourself look less threatening, because I feel like that's something I kind of struggle with sometimes too. you know, like just I don't really necessarily know how to read people in the moment per se, just because of the way my brain works, and it might come off in a way that trips their threat meter. You know, like, is this guy trying to take over? Is this guy trying to take my girl or something? I'm just like, hey, I'm just here to have a good time, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm trying to say about that, but it's something I was thinking
Well,
about. Like, if you can talk
so
about that.
I do. I think, so, and again, it's like looking at, so I'm a person that studies people, right? All right. So I was in signal intel, right? So we study data, right? We just,
Yeah.
get stuff and then like try to figure out the meaning of it. But and part of that, sometimes we're getting our other training as like, we're in foreign countries and there's other threats around. So you pay attention to details of like, don't park, don't even in traffic, don't get too close to the car in front of you. Make sure you always got out over here. Watch for people walking in a particular way. Look, stand different in different groups, and so you're always engaging with different ways of looking at different situations and paying close attention to detail. So I think when I engage with people, and on first take, that's what I'm doing. I'm seeing how I can engage with them. I have this, I have a humorous nature about me, cracking a joke, and I say to Maria all the time, like, if she doesn't believe me, I said, yeah, I'm more introverted than people, give me credit for, and I'm not a people person. She goes, shoot, anytime you engage, if somebody comes around, you just come back out and you're just like running your chops, this, that, and the third. I know how to make people feel comfortable. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because there's a thing, you can see the meanest mug or the hardest, whatever, kind of looking, person. But how do you break that shell to make them feel comfortable, that makes them feel like, not forcing the conversation, but also giving them an avenue to express themselves. Then they may say like they don't want to talk to anybody. Like, yeah, I'm only pretty quiet. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I can get that. I know people like this, that, and the third. And all of a sudden, here they are, just giving you more and more information about themselves without you really even pulling it out. You create this avenue, and then it also creates this lane where there's no confrontation that's going on. There's no sense of conflict because they don't see me as a threat. They see me as a person they're communicating, right? So I go in that with, being able to study the way that people want to express themselves. If somebody wants to be quiet, they want to sit there and like in their own silence, give them that lane and don't feel like I feel uncomfortable because they're doing that, right?
Yeah.
I can put myself in different levels of comfortability because of it. You know what I mean? I don't, I think the key thing about it is being comfortable enough with yourself to be around uncomfortable situations, right?
Yeah.
Because you have self confidence, and I think that's what it is with me as being. I just want to call it as skilled as I am, because I know I'm not the most skilled person, but I have my own set of skills. It's created, and this is what I teach my students too. By doing this stuff within Tai Chi, even working on your balance, your stance, it gives you balance, and then giving you balance gives you confidence. Because I work with older people as well. I work with the senior community as well, right? I do a class where sometimes they only can sit down or with this, that, and the third. But what I do, and I give them this information, so what I'm trying to do is give you confidence that you can stand up and balance, and you can take a steps. Because when you have that confidence, it changes your mindset. It changes the way how you engage with the actions you're going to do, and also it changes your engagement with people because it takes away that concern. If you feel confident about something, you're not going to come across like feel threatened, feel like, you know what I mean. You're going to be all right. Everything's all right. I'm cool. Everything's comfortable. You know what I mean? Because I have self confidence. So I've built that self confidence pretty much through my Tai Chi practice, right? So when I see somebody who looks like, oh man, this person may be threatening, I don't feel necessarily threatened. I've been to foreign countries by myself, from Austria to all the way down Australia to even like Thailand. But sometimes I go into places that I realize later on, like, oh man, that's the most like, well, dang, I wish I would have known that maybe beforehand, but I didn't approach it as such. And then I'm greeted by strangers in that same manner where they didn't see me as a threat. They gave me the information I needed, and I went on about my business. You know what I mean? And it's never felt that sense of like, oh shoot, something's gonna bother me in that sense, right? But I think that's a lot about it is your own self confidence, being able to carry yourself into any environment with that sense of like, I'm good. So if I'm good, it's gonna be good. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that kind of brings up a point I think is also applicable across both these areas too. Um, crabs in a barrel, the crab effect. You guys are familiar with that, right? Like there's uh Julia Cameron talked about this in her book, The Artist Way, and it shows how like people who are not yet like realized in their artistic endeavor, you know, like struggling poets, people are just starting to figure out whatever, that, you know, they see other people doing their thing and like they have this sort of fear that that person's going to do better than them, and then they're going to, you know, try to take them down somehow. So do you see that like in the martial arts or the poetry world at all? You guys think?
Go ahead, Moses.
Oh, definitely in the poetry world all the time. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, like our ceiling isn't even that high enough to be jealous of. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand it at all. But that's in everything. You know, like you could probably go talk to some river dancers, and they probably got beef with the river dancers over there. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't kick their legs up high enough. That should be me. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be that in everything. Like that's just haters. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna have them. But I man, look, like this gonna sound it might sound like a lot because it's so prominent, but it's not a drop of hate in my blood, bro, for nobody. When I see people doing well and they come and they doing better than me, I want to have a conversation with them and get some game and learn. You know what I'm saying? Or see how I can mix some of their ingredients into my gumbo. You know what I'm saying? But never have I been like, oh, I hope this person falls. I hope they don't do great. I hope they fall. Like that just ain't. It's just it. I don't know. Maybe I was raised right. I ain't that don't even compute to me at all.
Oh, that's a good statement, man. Because you know, and I'll be like fully transparent, but I'll make this statement because I just heard this from the artist Shine, because he was being interviewed about what's going on with you know, Sean Combs, P Diddy going on, and they're asking him about his experience and all this stuff and everything, and then asking him about the current situation. And the statement he made, he goes, "Well, you know, my success doesn't depend on someone else's failure. You know what I mean? So, you know, I can still be just as successful despite someone else that I, you know, maybe had a relationship with, and there are things that are going as well. But, you know, for me, I can say this, you know, with pure honesty, that sometimes it does bother me with the skill sets that I have and some of the doors that I think that are there, and I'm not going through those doors. But it doesn't take away from my skills, because I always have this clarity of mind. Is like, that wasn't destined for me. That was for somebody. That's somebody else's thing. You know what I mean? So that's not mine. That's someone else's, you know, piece that they need to have, right? But with that being said, I also look at it as we all have this viewpoint of limited resources out there. We sometimes think that if we don't get to that resource, it's going to be gone. If we don't get to it, it may be gone by the time I have the ability to get there. And I think that there's enough. You mentioned it, Moses, too. That the ceiling is so high, and because it's a false sense, right? Because there really are immense amounts of resources out there available to everyone. But how you get to it may be totally different how someone else gets to it, right? You know, and that's their lane. You know what I mean? That's the way that they got to it, and they have a particular audience for what they do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you have your group in your lane over here who has the interest of what you're doing, and what they feel is like, oh yeah, that's what I like. That's what I like. You know what I mean? Because that's just the nature of things, right? And I think sometimes we get stuck and trying to follow what someone else is doing, and it's not working for us, trying to do what they're doing or trying to get attached to what they're doing, and then feel like, why not? Why is it not doing this? You know? And it's like you said, you know, not having a sense of hate about it, because you should appreciate that, because at some point in time, what they're doing may even benefit what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because, you know, so, you know, whether it's saturation or whether it's like, you know, had he not mentioned that, I wouldn't even know to look for this over here. Oh man, I didn't know that existed over here. You know what I mean? So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I call it like the Wu-Tang method. You know, if one of us comes up, we all come up. You know, it's like, you know, I'm gonna need some help, right? You know, there's not a lot of people out here you can really rely on. You know, so if you find people that you rely on that are working on it, it's good to do that. But yeah, but you know, you can't beat me because I don't compete, right? That's the motto I'm going for now. And I think that comes out of the Tao too. It's like you know, the highest good is like water. It seeks the low places where people don't whatever. But yeah, that was kind of I guess the point is I wanted, and you guys both hit it there too, is that like, you know, once you hit this point of, you know, competence and confidence in yourself, then it's less about trying to find out what other people are doing wrong. And you, I mean, you don't even have time for that. Like, I don't really have time to look at what other people are doing wrong. I'm just like, I barely have enough time to work on what I know I'm doing wrong already.
Right.
You know, and so I just got to work on that. If I'm working about you, I'm going to help you out by telling you what to do. No, man, that's free labor, you know. But like that, there's so much contention like in the Tai Chi community. And again, it's the bar is low. I mean, there's plenty of business, I guess, for Tai Chi people. I mean, all kinds of people want to learn about Tai Chi, but like as far as the bar of success is kind of, I mean, there's only so high you go, right? Like
who is the most successful Tai Chi person?
That's a good question. What would you say on that? Successful?
I don't know, because right now, Tai Chi is like I think it's $1 billion business, right? And you have so many varying degrees of it, right? So like, and I love it because we are making comparisons, right? It's like we look at the different leagues of battle rap, right? You got URL, you got RBE, you got the more like homegrown versions of that, right? And some people are well known, but sometimes the well known is not really the cusp of what it really is. They get the look, but down here, there's this dude that would keep him up. You know what I mean? That, right? And so, but then again, it's like, what's the measurement of success, right? Is it monetarily, or is it the amount of views? Is it the amount of people that participate in what you do? Right? So it's such a varying degrees on what you measure as the most successful, right? Because in our field, there's different styles of Tai Chi. There's 5 main family styles, but within that, there's so many different derivatives, right? There's subsets of those who have attachments to the main families of Tai Chi, right? And they have their own collective groups of people that follow their style, right? That when you look at that, then you're saying, well, within those styles, who's the most popular? They may be the most popular, but are they the most? Are they getting paid for their seminars the same level as the most popular person is, right? So what's your measurement for success? So to pinpoint that is very challenging, but the conflict, as Jason was mentioning about, and sometimes is the person's definition of the art, right? So if okay, excuse me for being very limited in my scope of this, but it's like if you're looking at URL and folks are saying, well, if that's the definition of battle rap, but all they talk about is street rap, gun bars, you know what I mean? They're so limited, but yet they get the biggest look, right? Or the biggest look. But then you got these guys out here that can break down the lyrics, what they're saying. They can get, like you said, get emotional. I can break down a person's character, but they're not doing that up here, But why is it why is that the benchmark for the success of the art? Why is that the benchmark? Why is it not all these other skills that are out there that are accessible to everyone else, but they're not getting that look? So the frustration in Tai Chi relates to the same thing, right? So why is this person up here getting this look, but all they're doing is this? This person's not fighting. They're not showing you how to do this particular style of the art. They are not able to go and do it against other styles of the art. So why are they getting this look? So the frustration is there, and it's viewed as that. Is that the person most successful? But is it though? Is that the level of success? But sometimes people are looking at that as the measurement, but not all people are looking at that as the measurement. You know what I mean? So does that make sense?
With your personal set of standards, merits, and values, who is the most successful Tai Chi person to you?
Wow, man.
Stump.
Yeah.
That's a hard question because, like, when you answer, somebody's gonna get pissed off.
No, it's not even that, because I'm really trying to be honest about it, because because I don't follow because I don't follow necessarily the monetary value of it. I follow the skill set value of it, because I'm a skill sets guy, and like, so for instance, like, and I'll be again transparent about this, right? As much as I go around showing people stuff, I necessarily don't get paid for doing Tai Chi, because I just go and do it. If it's beneficial to you and however you're going to do it, go ahead and do it. Now, if a organization says, hey, we want to pay you to do, teach us some Tai Chi, I'll say, oh, what's your range? typically I do about maybe 50 an hour, depending on what I'm going to be showing, right? But generally speaking, I got people texting me and say, hey, Mike, can you meet up this Sunday? I want to go and do some stuff. And we go and do it. I record it. I, kind of catalog of the recordings that we do. And all we did was meet up, no talk of money whatsoever, right? So when I look at other people, I'm not even looking whether or not they're got money. I know there's people out there that get seminars and they get lots of people, and I don't know if that's the highest range of it, because I know people in my collective that I train with that they do seminars, and I know they charge a certain amount of money and it's very successful for them. But to look at it as a whole, it's very difficult for me to say, oh, that person is, because there's so many of us. It really is. There's so many of us, and it's so varied too as well, right? You got people, and like for instance, there's a collective group from China, the Chen family, and one of the main one. I don't know if he's retired now, but Chen Shawang was like the main bearer of the family, but he has some of his younger collectives that goes around and does seminars as well. So as a family, they could be probably one of the most successful of the Tai Chi folks, because also they're getting support from the I would say mainland China in regards to that, because now Tai Chi is a national treasure.
Intangible cultural heritage.
Yes. So now to get that backing, they may be the most successful in doing it. You know what I mean? And have that push. But as a collective, it's still known that Yang family, the Yang style, is the most popular outside of that. You know what I mean? They're the most popular style because they are the ones that first kind of like to modernize it in a way to make it more appealable to those outside of the Asian community, if you will. So it started hitting people more quicker than that, all right? So then when the popularity of it got so renowned, then the martial side of it was like, oh, it's a martial art. And then the Chen family started getting more renowned because they had more of the look and feel of looking like a martial art, right? And so then that started to pull more people into that realm. Then when that became that, then all the other underlying styles and connections to it, like, hey, I teach it too, and I teach these applications. I teach this transmission that has these styles that no one's ever seen before. And so it's like the people start to move and navigate to that. So now you have this big pool of people out there. So it's like hard to keep up. It's like, all right, who's running the ship now? Who has it? So and for me, like I mentioned, I detach myself from that because I have these set of skills and I have this information. If you want it, I got it. Good, take it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I don't ever. So maybe I'm the wrong person to ask that. Maybe Jason may have that.
I got some opinions. But yeah, it's kind of like what you're saying, like, and this goes back to, like, if you read the Republic, Plato's Republic, he kind of talks about this too, and one of these things where he says that, like, there's the art, and then there's the art of marketing the art, right? So you've got, like, okay, you might have a lot of skill, but can you teach to pass that skill on? Right now, okay, you might have skill, you might be able to teach, but can you promote yourself to the point where you're actually gonna have students? Like, right? Are you gonna be able to keep that up? And then it's like, okay, well, when money, like some people, like, I don't want to teach for money, right? But then, okay, well, how many students can you get then? How much time can you devote to it? All right. But I'd say, like, if you want to look at, like, promotion and financial success, like, from the outside, I would say that Adam Misner's hands down is just winning that battle, just going by. His name is ubiquitous. You can't go to, there's a retreat twice a year in Tampa. Then we go and we do push hands there, which is like kind of the, two-person, not fighting, but it's like a training,
Yep.
Okay. And so we do that. So you go there, and, like, half the people there are on the course at least. So, like, he's got a monthly course, people pay, and it's, they get videos and follow along the videos. And so he's really, I think he's really winning that game, hands down. I think Shirley Ha Chok, I think is her name, from Iping Tai Chi. Yeah. And so Adam, he's got, like, not really, like, any sort of, like, family backing or anything. He's just kind of doing his thing, and he's got his way of presenting it, and it's caught on. It's really popular. It's controversial, so a lot of people talk about it, and a lot of people talk shit about it. But Shirley is just kind of doing it, old school. She's got the Iping, Master Iping was a well-known guy, and so she's kind of like trying to follow along in his teachings and do it that way. as far as the best skill, there's a lot of skilled folks out there, man. Like Lee Shields, pretty cool. Like I touched him once, and he was just kind of got my arms crossed over like this, like and just made me feel like a mouse in a little fat kitty's hands. I don't know, but my teacher, and that's why he's my teacher, is like that dude just, like I can't. Well, I don't know. It's been a while since I tried, but I can't move him. You know what I mean? Like I try to move him, and he just stands there and just takes it. And I'm like, I mean, even Mike has got to do something. He can't just sit there and like not do anything. You got to like counter it somehow, right? And Mike's really good. Like, and that's the thing to get into that. Not to be kissing your ass because you're on my podcast here, but like, you ask around the community, about Mike Graves, like, oh yeah, he's that guy. Now nobody's got anything bad to say about you. You know what I mean? Like, not that I've heard. That, and I know people got shit to talk about me for what some reason or another all the time, but people got shit to talk about everybody. I've never heard him say anything bad about you. So that's he's up there too. Chris Marshall, he's going to be on the show next week. He's putting in the work, and that's he's been doing it for about 5 years now, really like aggressively promoting his material and getting in competing in the competitions. And like just doing everything everybody says they should do. And I'm excited to talk to him because he's kind of quiet and reserved, So
he is.
yeah,
cool. I'll see him next week as well. I'm gonna be in Seattle with him next week for his open mat. So yeah.
Oh, right on, yeah. So but he's doing really good, yeah, and like my teacher, like I really, he's from a famous family, so he's got like sort of that, but it feels like his, and he's got a great community established like worldwide. You know what I mean? Like, he went to Thailand for 10 days, and like the National Tai Chi Teachers Association in Thailand rescheduled their annual meeting so that he could be there to do a demo, right? Like he's outside of the US, he's really well known, and really, really well respected. In the US, it's kind of like a little bit because like, there's, I don't know, just like we're looking for a certain thing, a certain kind of flash, and whatnot that he's not necessarily interested in delivering, I think. He's just more of a traditionalist in that regard. So I think the teaching is great. The community is great. As far as for like the promotion and the sales, maybe not, winning that race at this point, but like one thing he told me is like, look at what the people that are succeeding are doing and copy them, and then, and then start from there, and then you can make improvements, right?
That means that to be more. I mean, that to be more controversial. I think in my engagement and dialogue.
Yeah. Well, it might be. You got to stop being such a nice guy, man.
And it's funny because your teacher, Alex, you're mentioning, right? Who you're referring to? Yeah. So me and him as little did I know that. So one of my main teachers, or the part of my organization, used to train with his father, and then then directly I would train with him. So you know what I mean. So he's like, oh yeah, he used to go train with my dad for like And I was like, okay, yeah, I know he mentioned it and everything like that. So it's funny because like he goes, so he goes, I was younger at that time, kid at that time, but yeah, he come to my dad, and that's when I lived in England and everything like that. So I was like, oh man, then we've been doing the same training there, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like, well, his dad retired right around the time I started studying with these guys, and so like he has these students that he's been working with for decades, right? And so they've watched Alex grow up from a little kid, and now like they've been studying from his dad for probably maybe even longer than he's been studying, but now that he's the teacher, because he's got the more, it's just a really interesting thing. And but because some people will call him Alex, some people will call him Sifu, or whatever, just depending upon where they kind of came in on it.
He's based in New York. Is that where he is? That's where he lives.
He's in New York. Yeah, he's up in New York. We're doing this cruise on in February.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm hoping to go on that. I might try to get some funding for that because, like, I'm going through my third divorce now, and I'm just a little bit broke. Right? I'm just gonna throw that out there. Send money, please. No, but but no, it's gonna be really cool. It's like 7 days from LA to Mexico. And so a lot of high hands mixed in with the community are coming out. So I'm really hoping to get out there and touch hands, talk, and do that kind of thing with folks. That'll be pretty good.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody's ever. I mean, I may have commented on some videos and things like that. The dialogue about the the whole Adam Misner thing, and my nature is being the way it is. I try to be very kind of straightforward and pragmatic about my skills and what I express to people. And I think, particularly, in the different groups, and we talk, kind of, matter of fact, and particularly in the Fajin project, which, I'm adamant in there. Some of the dialogue about what he does and what he represents is, kind of goes back to, I guess, if you
You
want
mean
to
Adam
say,
Misner here?
say again?
Adam Misner?
Yes.
You're talking about? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was saying, like, you had brought up about, his popularity and how he, kind of uses what he has as his marketing thing, and making the controversy kind of, I think, is one of the things that's one of his selling pieces, right? Aside from the folks really interested in trying to get whatever the skill set that he has, but I think a lot of that goes behind the talk about what is really real within the Tai Chi world, right? What is really real, and as a martial art, I represent that lane of things as far as Tai Chi goes, right? Because I consider myself a martial artist. I consider Tai Chi as a martial art, and I think there's folks who still consider it a martial art, but don't do it martially, and
Yeah.
they'll. So I've had people that I've even like engaged with, and they will talk about the great prowess of Tai Chi as a martial art, but they couldn't express it themselves. But they would use me sort of like as the selling piece for it being a martial art, right?
Yeah.
And being able to show and demonstrate certain skills within that martial art to a certain level. And I think a lot of times that's what people, if you're going to say is that, then show it as that, right?
Yeah.
Show yourself as that, right? Because limiting it as a certain thing and demonstrate. I mean, I had a conversation earlier today on one. It's in the pushing hands, Austin pushing hands group, that someone mentioned that my expression of it was, it was external applications. It wasn't Tai Chi because
Yeah.
I'm doing, then I show them an example of pushing hands while I'm doing the exact same skill that they showed me in their video. I'm doing the same thing. So I'm doing a dynamic now. And the thing they say, well, you just left yourself open for a whole bunch of punches and things like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's in that environment. But I do it as a martial art where I can shut that down too. Like,
Yeah.
I'm working on someone's balance and pushing hands. So therefore, yeah, I'm going to push. I'm going to move them around, and I'm going to stay in that. But if we switch the model up, I still know how to switch the model, right? And
Yeah.
then if I want to show that, then I can show that side of it. And I think that's what a lot of times what people want to see is like, if you speak on that side of things and you have the ability to express it, just go ahead and express it. Just
Yeah.
go ahead and show that is feasible and how you show it's feasible. And you can look at all of my catalog, right? And generally speaking, you can see whether I'm showing it or you can hear people talking about it. I go and do it with jujitsu folks. I do spar with people who do Muay Thai. I go outside the realm of Tai Chi, folks who do karate, and I use my art as representation of what Tai Chi is across the board, whether I'm doing it within our own set of circle of pushing hands or, form or whatever it is, demonstrations, but in expressing it as a art, as a sense of martial arts. And I don't have any visible thing as self-defense, but I've used it as self-defense outside of any kind of ring to know that it's even proficient in that environment. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, and I think a lot of times that's what people want to be able to see. Aside from this telling me about all these little secret things and these little things that
Yeah.
are the training methods, show it being applied and such, and then let that be a representation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's a funny thing about it because I think a lot of folks, not they're skeptical about it. It's like, well, yeah, we hear all the teachers from the past talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have no video proof of that. And then when they show us a video of folks from the past doing it, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, that's what some of them are kind of embarrassing. Well, and I think that there's a couple things operating there too.
Yeah.
One, like, crab effect, right? So okay, this guy's doing something different, right? And it's not what I'm doing, so it can't possibly be any good. And prove it's good by showing me it's good by you beating somebody else under a particular set of circumstances, right? It's kind of like the way it feels like to me, because it's like they'll say, okay, well, here's a push hand. Well, that's just push hands. That's cooperative. We're like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, does he have to go home bloody, or I mean, what's the standard, right? And because I look at my life using it, like, my fighting, I didn't fight in a ring. I've never fought like, well, the one time I fought in a ring, I got my damn knee blown out, right? And it's like, okay, well, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself in a situation where I'm exposing myself to this risk for what? Like, what's the purpose of it, right? Um, and that's what I actually wanted to ask, like, what is you guys' experience with violence outside of like organized consensual situations? Do you have any of that in your life?
Yeah, I do definitely. That's what I think. I wrote a narrative up somewhere where I kind of spoke on like I think two or three different scenarios of me applying it outside of it. I think I did a demo. I think I did a video called and said, "What's a push got to do with it?" That's what I did.
Yeah. I saw that. What's push got to do with that? That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I wrote up in that like it's a scenario where 'cause I DJ and things like that. And back in that day, I was hanging out with my other DJ friends and some other friends like from I was in the Air Force as well. And we're all hanging out and at a nightclub together. And this guy was like, I think he was asking the DJ for something, and DJ wasn't handling his request, and he was just getting aggressive. And he was a kind of big dude, and he started threatening and started like, like he wanted to like, do something. And I just kind of like came and like just stepped down and like just gave him a double push because he was like really being aggressive. So I gave him a double push to the chest, and he went flying back hit the wall, boom, kind of went down a little bit, and got back up. He looked at me in the face, and then he just took a hard left and went out and left it up. And I said, I don't know if that was a sense of like embarrassment for him that this little dude that's pushed him
Yeah.
and then the amount of the push that it was, or is he felt like, oh shoot, all right, because he may not even been a fighter. He just might have been trying to use his size to intimidate, and it didn't kind of
Yeah.
work in his favor per se, right? So that was an example. Then there's another one that I was saying about like again around my DJing friends, right? We did a like a nightclub set and things like that, and like so my friends in England were from everywhere, from Spain, from England itself, Oman, Nigeria, but we all were into music. We're all in. There was like 4 or 5 of us that were DJs, and there's a couple others that were singers, other ones that were rappers, and so we hung together all the time, right? But one night I was giving we left the club, and I was giving another one of our friends a ride home. And it was like, hey, yeah, by the way, hey, we moved house. It's on the same street, but it's a different house up the street. And I said, okay. And so I dropped off the other person. And I came back, parked my car close to their other place, and I started walking up the street. And I was like looking for the house. From the opposite side of the street, there were some people that was like, kind of walking down. And I saw there was a confrontation going on. And there's two guys, two kind of tall, lanky guys, and they were giving people some grief, and they're like pushing people around and arguing with them. And I saw them punch this one guy, and then they came down, and there was another group of people, and they got involved with them. And I saw them take this guy, throw him over the bush, and kind of like And then again, I'm on the middle of the street. I mean, there's a street here, and then they're on the like left hand side of the street. I'm on the right hand side, and I can see them off to the left. I look to the left, and I'm looking to the right, trying to find the house where my friend is. I'm walking up, and we're getting closer proximity as they're coming down. I'm coming up the street. And they're on the other side, and they're like, what? And I'm like, they're talking to me. And they're like, what? So they come across the street, right? They come like, and the guy gets close to me. He grabs my shirt, right? He grabs my shirt, and I remember taking my arm underneath and kind of locking out his elbow, and then pushed him off. And again, he kind of looked at his friend and was like, let's go, because I think also I wasn't the victim, right? And so they kept it going. And then another one was a little personal thing where I was going through some stuff with my first wife, and then there's another guy that was involved, and then me and him got in a scuffle, and I kind of like did some stuff, and I grabbed him. He was a bigger guy than me, but I grabbed him by the neck and I lifted him up. But it was all going off of like pure like angst and expression, and like I had him pinned to the wall, and it's like this thing where I could hear it. She was like Mike, and I was like, just let him go, and it's like this thing of where all of it escaped, and I was like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah,
what?
right.
Like just like that. It is just like everything just jumped out, like, and it got super emotional. But those are encounters where I relate back to my skills. Like it's like I had the ability to really tap into my skills, stay engaged with my skills. It wasn't just brute kind of like I'm just gonna start winging my arm. I relied strictly on what I was taught, and was able to have the level of mind, even in that sense where I lost like that. It was anger, but it was controlled anger to the point where I didn't squeeze his neck to like kind of prick, but I held him in position, like, dude,
Yeah.
what do you think is going on, right? You know what I mean? Like, and then was able to release it, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
had those scenarios, and and I think a recent one where nothing happened, where
Well,
we were
probably
bouncing.
three's probably enough, right? Such
I know that my skills
yeah.
still factor in. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Moses, what about you? Have you run into any violence, even with not being a martial artist, like out there?
Everybody run into violence, but I made this vow to myself that if I can avoid something, since my kid's been born, if I can avoid any
Yeah.
violence, I'm gonna do my best to, and it's been working out pretty well. One time I was with my buddy Seven. I don't know if you know Seven.
It's familiar sounding, yeah.
Yeah, man, we was out. It was my birthday, and I'm looking like until I got on a Crash Bandicoot shirt, and somebody gave me like a crown and a stash thing, like a birthday thing. And I'm down there, and this one I live in Jacksonville. Duval is one of the most gutter
Oh yeah.
cities you ever been, And so we went out to this club, the Real Team Cafe. It's like a Jamaican spot, and I didn't have my glasses on, so this was my fault. And I walked up to this guy who I thought was my friend Henry, and when I got close up to him, he wasn't Henry, because I can't see without these things at all. So I got close up to him, I wasn't Henry. So he was like, "Hey man, what you looking at? Blah blah blah. You want a problem?" I was like, "Oh no, sir, I didn't want a problem. I thought you were somebody else." And even I'm trying to explain to him, like, even if you were him, like, I wasn't coming aggressively. I was coming in love. You know what I'm saying? Coming to shake your hand and tap you up. How you been? You know what I'm saying? Like, he was like, "No, you need to get over there. You need to move across the way." So I'm just like, what an idiot. So I just walk off, and and I'm standing over here on the wall, and the guy say, "No, you need to move further away." Wow. So now I'm talking to Seven, and I'm like, "See, this is why I don't come to this club." You know what I'm saying? This is way too ignorant. I'm not having fun anymore. I'm ready to leave, right? So with that, I guess he thought like we was cowards or something. We was running from him. I just wasn't enjoying myself no more, so I was leaving. This guy walks out of the club. You got to go up the stairs to get out the club. This guy walks out of the club and say, "Hey, you got a problem? We can go around the corner." I was like, "Look, man, I'm parked around the corner. Do not follow me." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he follows me around the corner, and like I say, I'm gonna avoid things if I can. But he gets up, and it's three guys, and he gets up in his face, and they push Seven. And I can't really fight, but I can punch.
Yeah.
If anybody knows me, know that all I really got is this right hook, But these guys don't know me from Adam. So he pushed Seven, and I just let that right hook go, bop, and the guy then he went to sleep, and he tried to get up, but he kept, and his friend didn't do anything but help him up and get him across the street to get in their car. And I was thinking to myself, why didn't they tell him to leave those guys alone? You know what I'm saying? These guys don't want to fight. Right? And I don't know if he was showing out for them, but they clearly don't have your back because they didn't even try. Now it's a straight 2-on-2. But I guess after they seen that punch, they ain't want no problem, dude.
Yeah.
Yes,
Never seen them guys again.
Oh yeah. That's usually most of the. I mean, we can avoid most violence, like as men. I think like we're usually if we're getting in a fight, it's we're agreeing to that situation. Usually, right? We're in some way we're getting in there. Like I think women and more vulnerable people have less choice in it a lot of times, and that's kind of like where I'm kind of focusing my efforts in self-defense these days. Is like weaker people against stronger people. But that actually I'm gonna talk mine too because there's one I always loved talking about because when I was back doing security, I was working at this club in North. It was in downtown Minneapolis. I can't remember the name of the damn club, but we were doing it was a Plies show, right? So it was like probably I think 1,500 to 3,000 people in the place, and it was wintertime, and they were making them go outside to smoke, right? And he didn't show. Like fucking like there was some kind of like problem at the airport or something. So it's like midnight, 12:30. They're sitting there like a couple hours, like, all right, what the fuck's going on, And it just basically popped off, right? Like everybody started just throwing bottles and smashing tables and shit was just crazy. So, we're just trying to get things under control, get people out of the club. And there's like these little like pockets of, somebody's trying to like settle a score, like, okay, oh, now's a good time in the chaos to go over there and just like, give so-and-so a pop or whatever. And so somebody got caught in the corner. And then, my team is over there dealing with it. And I'm going because like there's people trying to come through the door. And this dude's probably got, I'd say 6 inches and maybe 50 pounds on me. Right. And he's trying to come past. I'm like, hey, dude, you can't come in there. And he's like, no, I got to go see my boy over there. I got to help him out. Right. And I'm like, no, you can't come in there. And so he starts trying to push me out of the way. And we do this thing in Tai Chi where, like the long power push, Mike, you might know what I'm talking about. And so as he comes in, my hands went on his chest. Right. And then I kind of like folded him in to like wrap around his shirt and that kind of pulled him towards me a little bit. So he's on his toes. And then I stepped forward and pushed out. And so his mask goes with it. And so this guy's bigger than me and stronger than me. I'm just a little white dude, and like he is off his feet. My hands are on his chest. And he is all of a sudden 5 feet back from where he was. And he didn't really feel me pick him up. You know what I mean? And so he's like, okay. And he goes in and he walks out. Right. So like, I was like, the fight was pretty much over. Cause like, I don't think he just had any idea what the fuck I had in store for him after that. Right. But it was just like, okay, cool. All right.
Yeah. He want to find out.
Yeah. And, but that's kind of like where like, if we could just like keep the fight from happening, that's my my primary thing. Like, and that's why like I don't like to do because again, I busted my ACL on a fucking promo fight for a local gym. Like for what? Like why did I give up my ACL in 9 years? It was before I got that back.
Yes, I remember. Yes, I remember you had the issues for a while. Yes, I remember you went to the fix up and everything, and I was like, "Oh, dude, you look different now."
yeah, and it's like like not everybody that goes into business is going to be Jeff Bezos, right? You know what I mean? Like not everybody's going to be a millionaire, not everybody who does a certain thing is going to be like whatever. And even like in the UFC, right? You get people out there, they're doing the same program that works every day. It's a matter of like how much money they can spend on training, how much time they can spend on training. It's not about like, like even judo these days. It's not about the judo, right? Like the Olympic level judo. Okay, yeah, that's just the base. You got to have your like, 7th dan black belt judo to start, and then you got to do your physical conditioning for the specific task, right? So like, I guess the point I'm getting at too there is like we talk about like in the ring type stuff. It's only really all that ever really proves outside of like just the wiping somebody the floor with them, right? Like the Zhuzhong Den or whatever, the guy just walked in and like, oh, I couldn't even defend himself. Okay, yeah, they're obviously, it's off. But like in these events, I think they really are only just proven, who was better that day, right? And whatever reason, like just like any sort of sport situation. I mean, you can say over time, but that getting back from like and I'm not opposed to like resistance training or anything like that, but I'm saying that like, it's got to be like Gage, where you have somebody of a better strength who is better than you, who is fighting and keeping you at a level that's getting you to where you're going to be, not necessarily somebody who's at your level where you're going to go and try and beat them. You know what I mean? Because like that's where we kind of, we grow when we build and we train like that. And then when we get into these situations, we've got that skill there, and we can assume that dude's better than me, that dude's stronger than me, and they go into it thinking that, so we can get away if possible. And if not, then, that's just how I approach it. Right. And like, cause I'm very comfortable with violence. Let me put it that way. Like I've participated in a lot of violence. I'm not really comfortable hurting people anymore, but like, I'm not afraid of a fight, or anything like that. I just, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to hurt anybody. And I got better things to do with my time, honestly. But anyhow,
real quick on that
go ahead, man.
Like, so I think for me, and what you mentioned about like, being in that environment, and I think having whether it's in, because I spar, I'm going to be sparring tomorrow in Houston, but I spar and I, going to, not as much now, going to competitions and things like that, but even pushing hands with folks, I always say it's like reading a book, right? Every person is a different book. And so when you read that book, you become more informed, right?
Yeah.
And you get informed about what you don't know. You get informed about what you can relate to because of what that information is there. And then it builds your skill sets like that. You know what I mean? And I think the more challenging the book, like if you're looking at competition, then the book may be a bit more challenging because now it's really got, all these different dynamics happening like quicker. Like it's like reading a book that you this is like, oh, this is really testing my skill set. I really understand this dialogue versus reading something like, this book is very kind of laid back. It's, maybe a bit
Yeah.
more enjoyable type thing. And it's still getting me some new words and new dialogue, new concepts and things like that. But the way I engage with it is different. They're like it's almost like reading, sometimes like going from reading a novel to
Yeah.
reading a manual about something that you have to, like, we both kind of delve in the computer world, right? And so it's constantly evolving, right?
Yeah.
So now you need a new set of skills because now AI is taking hold of certain things. So now you have to evolve, and now you have to read these like, go on Reddit, or you have to go on this particular thing to read these skills now that it applies to what you're doing, but now you have to step it up because now you have to yeah.
And that's what like like even like with the battle rap we were talking about earlier, and with poetry slam or any sort of competition, and war in general, like the evolution of these martial arts where they came out of, it was always an arms race. You look at the evolution of weaponry and armor, and it's always one over the other. Okay, we got better armor, so then develop better weapons. Okay, so they got better weapons, now we got to develop better armor, and it kind of goes up and up and up, and it's like the whole escalating arms race. I mean, the same thing happens with obviously this hand-to-hand combat, fair fights or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's the same thing. It's a game that's evolving, and I think that there's value to it, definitely, especially if you get into like that level. But I think that it kind of gets away from more like realistic value in some senses, because it's getting more and more specialized to a point where sometimes again, it's not necessarily bad. You're going to be able to fight better. You're going to be able to fight better. Period. Right?
No.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Even when I started doing the competitions,
Yeah.
it was reluctant. I got this. I think you may have even read it in the interview. Like, my teacher was like, "Nah, we're not gonna really we're not doing competitions. We really we're doing it." But then he was
like Slam got the same criticism that I'm looking at here, which was like, they look at Slam and they take it as like, competitive sort of situation, and people they turn poetry into a soccer match, right?
Yeah.
And so people get like, turn their nose up at it. But at the same time, nobody's up there reading about the butterflies flitting from flower to flower, and you know what I mean. Nobody's interested in that. They're not going to come to that show. They're not going to spend $50 on drinks that night for sure. So like, who's gonna? So we're gonna be getting the butts of the seat. That's what keeps shit alive in some sense, right? Man. So it's 6:30, a little after 6:30. Is there? You guys have been great. Thank you so much for having the courage to come on here and talk to my idiot self about this stuff. Is there anything you want to say before we get out of here? Is there anything you want to plug too? All right, we'll throw that out there. Moses?
Oh yeah, man. Good ass poetry. Every fourth Sunday
Okay.
in Jacksonville, Florida, at Eclipse Night Bar, at 8 o'clock. We do that every time. I got some other stuff going on, but all I care about right now is good ass poetry show, and that's my big.
Well, if you got like a link tree or something like that, you can send me about like your stuff. I can put that in the when I'm sending out about this.
Most definitely, we'll do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Any battles coming up, or any reference to
Yo,
battles?
doing one more.
Doing one more. Okay.
Are you retiring?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm doing that in November. Moses West. I'm doing a 2-on-2. Moses West and Nephew versus Don Marino and Ease. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I already battled Don before, so this is gonna be his rematch because I didn't whoop him.
Right? So right now, you're gonna keep in mind. As soon as I leave out of here, I'm going to go scoping out your back.
Well, there you go. Right. That's why I got y'all talking, man.
Yes,
Yeah. No worries, man.
I mean, that's why.
Before you leave, Mike, who you think won the Big K and Tay Rock now?
Wow. Okay. Damn. All right. So it got too friendly at one point. So I was liking it raw, but because I'm a Big K fan, I'm a Tay Rock fan, but I think I like the way Big K was for me. That's for me. You know what I mean? I think I like the way that you know what I mean? I mean, and I appreciate that Tay Rock stepped out of his zone and went to that environment and played around with it. But when he turned the blue lights off, I was like, oh yeah, okay. I felt what he was trying to do. It was like, okay, I'm calling you out. Yeah, you now you out underneath the URL umbrella. Now you over here. So let's do this. Like, so that's what I appreciate it, right? Because aside from just the bars, it's the showmanship and also to really play on what that energy was about, right? So that was just my take on it. You know, how about you?
I did. I think I like Big K too. I think he had bigger moments. I think K-Rock was more consistent, but K had bigger moments. Like,
right on.
And taking the hat off in front of Twerk. That pretty much won it for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So he did that. I love that part too, right? It was a surprise for everybody because he never had his cap off, right? That was dope, man. That was dope. I love it.
And that's when the battle became friendly, because at some point they was kind of pushing and shoving and talking back and forth. And once he did that, you could see the respect form right in front of you. You know what I'm saying? And that's when it became friendly. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Now it's my turn. I'm like, It's my turn to have no clue what y'all talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I get immersed in that world. I geek out over those, man, too. So probably, you know, and I probably have seen some of your battles. I mean, I'm gonna go back and
I haven't done anything recently, but nowadays I'm battling like once a year. But back in the day, I was heavy.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I go back to, obviously, you know, back when Lola Lux was in the Lion's Den, you know, and like,
you go back. You go back.
I go back to Fight Club. You know what I mean? You know, dude, I've been, you know.
But I got a Daylight battle. I got a Bill Collector battle. I got a Don Marino battle. And I got
a Bill Collector. What is a Bill Collector battle? Is that his name, or is that like a...
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay.
Bill Collector is a character. So, and no, man, I want to geek out. Just real quick, I want to geek out. So I like Bill Collector because of his antics. Like the same thing with Clean Paper or Kitchen Clean, how you want to call them now, you know. I like Daylight because of the antics, because of what they bring outside of the box into the realm, right? Those are the kind of people that I think make it so doesn't get redundant and doesn't get so oversaturated in what you expect it to be, right? Because, you know, and then right now, O Solo for me is like my dude, right? Like, again, it's like, it's those kind of people.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk outside the podcast.
Oh yeah, man, just you connect, right? That's it. Crossbreed there, not cross pollinate.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, cool, man. Well, again, man, thanks again, y'all, so much, man. It's been great. Man, much respect for all y'all, and thanks for coming out. And I'll send you the links. Go for it.
For me, if you want to see any of the stuff that I post up that's, you know, is not subscription or anything like that on YouTube, you can see my page. It's called Low Kick Slick. Same thing on TikTok. And then pretty much on Facebook, you'll find me either under my name, Mike Graves, or either Principles of Tai Chi Teachquan. So if you want to see any of the stuff that I kind of throw out there and things like that, I'm constantly posting something up that I'm just messing around with. So have a look.
Right on, man. Yeah, that's I'm gonna definitely get some good link trees together for y'all. Make sure everybody knows where to get more of some great stuff and all that neat stuff, man. You know,
simultaneously everywhere that God that everybody knows.
All right, take care.
Low kick slip, breaking boards across his belly. Ain't his feet ain't even smelly. Low kick slip, you can sit at home and run your mouth, or come mess around and find out. Low kick slip. Low kick slick. Low kick slick. Fight graves. Low kick slick. Low kick slick, coming quick with that trick kick flick, make you flip and trip and think you slipped. Low kick slick, mysterious and deadly, hiding in the shadows. Simultaneously everywhere that God that everybody knows. Low kick slick, breaking boards across his belly. Ain't his feet ain't even smelly. Low kick slick, consider home and run your mouth.